Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Betsy Peterson. I'm the director of the American Folklife Center here at the Library of Congress. And on behalf of everyone here and the staff, I want to thank you all for coming. For those of you who are new to the library and the American Folklife Center, just a couple of words. The American Folklife Center was founded in 1976, established by Congress, with a mandate to both present and preserve the rich diversity of American folklife throughout the U.S. and beyond, including traditional cultural practice, music, storytelling, food, craft, dance, and the like. For over 40 years now then, or actually a little bit over 42, I think, we've been presenting cultural traditions to the public through our concerts, lectures, and related educational programs, and we work to preserve folklife on behalf of the public through our archives primarily. And I should say the Center's archives of traditional culture, which is the base or foundation of our program today, is the largest in the world, with over 6.5 million items of recordings, of photographs, of manuscripts, posters, videos, film, and the like, documenting everything from the earliest recordings of Native American language and sacred music from the 1890s all the way up to the present taxi drivers in New York City, circus workers in the Midwest, civil rights veterans from the 1960s, and that's what we find here, and I want to invite you all to come sometime and check out our archives. But today's event, Rhyming the Archives Poetry Showcase, is very exciting for us because we're always trying to figure out ways to enhance and engage people in our archives and engage with the collections. We obviously provide access to researchers and scholars from throughout the world who come to the archive to work with the material, but we're also equally interested in inspiring and engaging artists, writers, musicians of all kinds in hopes of sparking their creativity and imagination to sort of play with and work with what they find in the archive and create something of their own out of it. So today's event is co-sponsored by the library's Poetry and Literature Center, and Rhyming the Archives is going to feature 5 or 6 poets, I'm not quite sure which, but you'll hear in greater detail, who are members of a Split This Rock DC Youth Slam team, and who will be performing poems that they wrote, some of which have been inspired from their recent research in the American Folklife Center's archives. And I should say, for a couple of Saturdays in May, members of the team visited the center to conduct research into the collections, reading protest song lyrics and dictionaries on American slang, and listening to a range of different recordings, including African American work songs collected and performed by anthropologist, playwright, and novelist Zora Neale Hurston in the late 1930s, looking and hearing interviews with leaders of the civil rights movement, listening to calypso music from Trinidad, oral histories with Japanese Americans interned in concentration camps during World War II, and traditional music from Afghanistan recorded in the late 1940s. Clearly a very broad array of topics and styles and cultures. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what they have come up with and hear their wonderful poems. But before I introduce Split This Rock, just a couple of thanks to all of the individuals who have worked so hard to make this happen. And I'd like to thank Rob Casper and Annie Creighton of the library's Poetry and Literature Center and Hannah Holmes. Also Thea Austin, our public events coordinator here at the American Folklife Center, and folklife specialist at the center, Michelle Stefano, who worked with the poets over the past few weeks and will be moderating a discussion with them after the performance. Also, I want to note, as if you haven't already figured it out, that this event is recorded and recorded so that it will be made available online for future publics and for people around the world to enjoy. So with that said, if you have a cell phone turned on, please turn it off at this point. We would greatly appreciate it, and I'm sure our poets would as well. So, Split This Rock was created in 2008 and is based here in Washington, D.C. It serves to cultivate, teach, and celebrate poetry that bears witness to injustice and provokes social change. It calls poets to a greater role in public life and fosters a national network of socially engaged poets. Each year, the organization supports hundreds of young people and the schools they attend by offering opportunities to write, perform, and connect with a diverse community of socially engaged writers. So now, please welcome the Director of Youth Programs at Split This Rock, Chelsea Yorlano, who is going to tell us a little bit more about the organization and today's brilliant, fabulous poets. So welcome.
Hi everyone, I'm going to use this mic. That's cool. Is this on? Cool. I'm just going to leave it be. Okay. Hello everyone. It's wonderful to see you all. Thank you for being here. How's everyone doing? Good? Good. Okay, are we awake? Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much, Betsy, for the introduction. My name is Chelsea Yorlano. I am the Director of Youth Programs at Split This Rock. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. As Betsy let you all know, we are a nonprofit based in the DC area. We really live at the intersection of social justice and poetry. We have a vibrant array of programs that we offer throughout the year for young people as well as everyone else regardless of age. We create intergenerational spaces and spaces where we're really able to celebrate and come together and connect through our differences and find shared community really around poetry and the inspiration and the power that it gives us in our lives. And so the DC Slam Team is an exciting program that happens at Split This Rock each summer. You're going to hear from 4 of the young women on the team today who are brilliant, inspiring poets, as well as from the head coach of the team, Alexa Patrick, who is here. I'd also like to thank Brandon Douglas, who is our assistant coach for the team this year. We have an incredible group of people to be kind of carrying us through the work this summer. And at Split This Rock, we believe that poetry is an important part of the work that we are doing to create social change in terms of our movement toward freedom and really visioning the world that we all hope to live in and share together with one another. And youth programs has always been at the heart of that work for me. I feel privileged and delighted to be in the role that I am at Split This Rock and to constantly be working with the young people who, we like to say a lot of times there's this narrative around youth who are doing this work and thinking about youth as the leaders of tomorrow, but at Split This Rock we really believe that you all are the leaders today. And we are excited to hand over that leadership to you. We're excited to hand over the mic to you and to hear what you have to say in recognition that there are not often a lot of spaces that give you all the platform to speak, but we have come to find that you are the brilliant people who we need to be listening to more often. So I'm really excited for us to be here together to create this shared space where we will be handing the mic over to the young people and hear what they have to say. You'll hear a selection of poems from each youth that will include some work that they have already written, work that has helped them, get to this part of their own professional youth poetry careers on the DC Slam Team, as well as poems that they have crafted in response to the incredible archives that Michelle was so wonderful in supporting the young people in their research and in their investigations. That has been really exciting. And as an organization, our name, Split This Rock, actually comes from a line in a poem by Langston Hughes called Big Buddy. And so something that was very exciting for us to be kind of together in these archives is to be, going through different materials, some of which were documents and papers that Langston Hughes himself had collected and contributed to the archive. So that was a really cool moment. That's all I'm going to say today before I get out of the way and introduce the poets, but I'm just going to go ahead and actually introduce the poets who are going to come on stage and who you'll hear from today. I will call the first poet up, and then I will allow each poet to kind of introduce yourselves. and they all know the order that they're coming up in. So this year's team, or who you'll be hearing from today, is Amina Fatima, Takier George, Jordan Shaybani, and Marjan Naderi. Round of applause for this year's team. And the first poet who you'll be hearing from today is Amina.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Amina Fatima. I'm a recent high school graduate. I graduated yesterday from Hayfield High School. Thank you. I'll be attending Northern Virginia Community College in the fall to study and earn a degree in general science. And yeah, the first poem I'm going to share with you guys is one that I wrote in between our trips to the archives. And while we were visiting, I found myself searching for something that I could really connect to and trying to find older documents that maybe I could see myself in. And I don't necessarily think that I found exactly what I was searching for, but just that in itself sparked this piece. This poem is untitled. They say poets are storytellers, so let me tell you the earliest memory I have of my faith. I was 8 years old and in second grade. I'd forgotten my homework folder at home, and upon realizing my mistake, I remembered that when worried, my mother would always pray. So I closed my eyes tight and tried for myself. Inhaled as one does before blowing up the candles and making a wish. I prayed that my teacher wouldn't be angry with me, and God said, I'll do you one better. The teacher forgot to collect homework that day. They say poets are lovers, so let me teach you how I learned to love. First, I learned that my mother's love for me is infinite. Second, I learned that God loves me 70 times more than she does, 70 times infinity. Learned that love is always infinitely growing, molding, melting, filling crevices that I never even knew existed. They say poets are painters, so let me paint for you a picture of the day my grandmother died. The sun still rose, and the birds sang what felt like a little too loud for the occasion. And the phone rang and rang and rang, and while none of the calls were from her as I wanted them to be, I learned that in talking to God, my grandmother would answer. They say poets are depressed, and in being so, I wrote a letter to God. It went something like this. Dear God, I know you only burden me with what I'm supposed to be able to handle, but sometimes I begin to feel like maybe I'm a product of miscalculation and overestimation. Sometimes I think maybe I was never supposed to make it this far. Maybe his love is not that what I deserve. Nights spent in sujood with tears glazing my skin made me realize, ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وَلَلْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنَ الْأُولَى. Your Lord has not forsaken you, nor does he detest you, and the future will be better for you than the past. They watch me pray, and then say no one is up there listening, but all they've done is watch me pray. They haven't seen the rest of what I've come through. Had they seen it, to see me standing here alive would be enough proof that he is indeed listening and granting and blessing. His performance has been revolutionary. This performance, a minuscule seed of his revolution. This performance, prayer, submission, repentance. This performance, liberation. This poem, undecided. This poem, shapeshifter, love poem, survival poem. I survived in how poem. This poem, a thank you. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
Just a little bit taller than her. Okay. Hi, I'm Jordan Shaybani. I unfortunately did not graduate high school yesterday. I'm a junior. So I have a little bit more time to go. I go to Walt Whitman High School in Bethesda, Maryland. Outside of Split This Rock, I am part of the debate and mock trial team at my school and also run the Minority Scholars Program. So that's kind of like my ish. On our second research day at the Library of Congress, I started to find inspiration in the piece that I'm going to share to you today. And I was kind of frustrated in the fact that like there are so many resources at the Library of Congress, yet we're not taught most of them in school. So I spent a lot of time looking at Japanese internment camp, which is something that I didn't hear in my history classes. Even AP history classes, that's something that you don't get to hear about. And it's something that's such a big part of our culture and part of our history that there are so many factors and pieces of history that we're missing. There's so many stories that are stolen from us by the collectors and the curators, the people who kind of tell the stories for other people. So this is a poem about that. We are who we collect. We consist of the countries and the cultures we focus on, a long lineage of a fight song yet to be passed down. I was 9 and unknowing that injustice lay on the wrong side of the right tracks in the south side of a city I was not born in. Ignorance is bliss if you never learn, but something inside me burned to not be set in my ways. I never met a craftsman who spent a lifetime transforming tradition in public worship but private faith, singing siren songs of social significance with a high and wholesome sound. These contemporary legends, local lore lures in the hopes of the people in places where they need it most. But I hope and I pray that they will come to see the light of day, seeing the rose with its thorns, understanding the world through my eyes, with the same shape and a similar size, having seen horrors you cannot imagine, images you cannot fathom. I'm 17 now and I know. I've learned that the collectors of cultures create the way that we live our lives, framing the world with a Eurocentric view so people like me and you are cut out of the picture. At the end of the day, we must decide our duty and do it well, remembering for them it is not history in the making, but history for the taking. Taken are memories from me, stories that I will never get to see, stolen stories and lives lost. Forgotten are my people. Churches, chapels, and steeples are staples of their history, but for people like you and me, collectors and curators, decided our fate. Forgotten are the stories of our race because we were too dark to be given a seat at the table. But I am well and able to use my voice, speaking in tongues of unconventional English, to ask, how the hell do we keep so silent? Thank you.
I too am also short like Amina and not as tall as Jordan. Hello everyone, my name is Marjan, and this is a piece inspired by my mother. We are from Afghanistan, our family, and so I was like, I need to write a poem about food, and I had no idea what to write about. And then that day I went downstairs, and my mom had this amazing dish of qabli palau. And if you guys haven't had it before, I highly recommend it. This is a piece about qabli palau. The lessons my mother taught me while preparing dinner. With salt and pepper hair, my mother tells me to taste my words before I spit them out. Her tongue is seasoned with more spice than her kebabs. Her hands only know the language of making mantu off her mother's menu. So heritage runs down the throat and into the bloodline. Her favorite home is the kitchen. The sun melts good morning through blindfolds. Hands craft the creation of food with more than love. They cook with wisdom. She taught me lessons through cooking qabli palau. Gave me the recipe as she said, the work of your hands is how you shape the world. And before washing your hands, make wudu. Watch sins run down the drain so they don't end up in others' foods. Make wudu with river water, but swim against the current so Zamzam drips down elbows for 10 cups of holy water. The ocean on your tongue is a language. You break the rocks in its path, make it 2 tablespoons of sea salt. Straighten your spine when you stand in something you believe in. If they tug, pull on the roots of your grandfather's strength for 4 carats. There are borders you cannot cross by foot. Take the grains of desert sand and make it 1 kilogram of rosewater rice. When carrying the weight of a crumbling country on your shoulders, you do not dust off its foundation. Rather, surrender to its sweetness for 5 tablespoons of honey. Bent elbows, bent knees with nothing but a prayer in pocket. Push, picked, pluck grapes of survival from vines, strangling a future worth striving for. Dry up the bittersweet taste of toil for a cup of raisins. Cook all ingredients together for 2 hours. With stories of ancestors folded in the creases of my mother's palms, She holds a plate of qabli palau, fresh off the stove, steam opening her pores, a mountain of brown rice, glistening sweet carrots and raisins at its peak. She tells me about my grandmothers, how one palm held poetry, the other pomegranates. Said this dish echoes fingerprints into the hearts of our ancestors. My mother taught me to create with more than love, to promise a fruitful future of family. She taught me to cook with history. And there's something so emulsifying about a table of food that makes history seem so easy to taste, to touch. Bismillah.
I'm the tallest, so. Thank you. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Takier George. I'm an 11th grader at Wakefield High School, and I'm a part of the Wakefield Poetry Club and the Wakefield LTAP team. This piece is titled Purple Roses and Red Daisies. Purple roses and red daisies. I want them to be a part of me. So I swallow their seeds, hoping they grow in the pit of my stomach so people don't see the overload, only the purple roses and red daisies. I want my stretch marks to grow into their veins. That way there'd be a logical reason to cut them off, those purple roses and red daisies. I want to pick apart the petals. He loves me, not will replace my heart that was covered by dirt anyway from being stepped on by too many purple roses and red daisies. I need them around my legs. That way the space I'm told I take up will become a beautiful landmark filled with purple roses and red daisies. They would take over my body as if I'm the last piece of land unmarked, just fertile enough to be field, not fertile enough to be felt, just intoxicating enough to be pollen, not intoxicating enough to be praised, just pretty enough to be blossom, not pretty enough to be beautiful. They say the most beautiful things come from the ground. So I pick them until beautiful is the only word to describe me. Doesn't matter if I suffocate in the process, I'm beautiful. People can't help but breathe in my insecurities and breathe out my love. But who am I to deprive them from all this hurt, all this beautiful hurt? I surround myself with purple roses and red daisies that make me question their existence, question my own existence, because what am I without them, which is to say nothing. I can still feel them hold me. So tight you think they were the ones that broke me in the first place. Sometimes if I say their names 3 times fast, I can still see them. Purple roses and red daisies, purple roses and red daisies, purple roses and red daisies. So real I still have the marks to show you. They called it love, I called it isolation. I never looked for love in them anyway, but they took away any chance of me looking for it anywhere else. As long as I looked pretty on the outside, I'd find a way to feel good on the inside, right? I wanted them to be a part of me. And now they are, those purple roses and red daisies. I don't know how long I thought I could live in a field, turn fairy tale, turn fences of purple roses and red daisies. I just wanted them to disappear some days, to remind me what I was trying to hide, where I made them up in the first place. But does it even matter if they were never actually there, and you could always see all of me anyways? Purple roses and red daisies, purple roses and red daisies, purple roses and red daisies. Thank you.
The first time someone told me I was an American, I was 7, and I thought they were stupid. The first time someone compared my dad to Osama bin Laden, I was 10, and I was furious. And the first time someone called me a terrorist, I was 13 years old, and to be more specific, it was my 13th birthday. I remember my voice shrinking in shock that someone could have the audacity to even utter such words around me, better yet, at me. My face red and hot, I remember my eyes welling up with tears of frustration. When you look at me, you may see an opportunity to ask, where are you from? But that gives me the opportunity to stare directly back at you and answer, here. It's confusing that you are upset at me now for sitting during the pledge and you tell me to act more American, as if it wasn't you who made me think I'm not American in the first place, but I guess that's why you use the word act. It's almost funny how my hijab is something you refer to as just a piece of cloth, but if I were to say the same thing to you about your flag, it'd make your hands form into fists and fingers wrap around the trigger. I don't understand when the change happened, when your switch flipped from being so dead set on stripping me of any desire of calling myself American to shaming me for not claiming this country as my own, as my home. I don't know what made you want me, what made you think twice about spitting me out. Maybe it was the power that I'm slowly gaining. Maybe it's the way my hijab flows in the wind like a cape, or like rapid hummingbird wings making the noise of revolution. Or maybe it was the fear of getting stepped on by your own shoe. Growing up, I was taught to keep quiet, to never cause any disruptions. But I was also taught to always tell the truth, and I don't know which to do anymore because the words truth and disruption have become synonymous. I was also taught to never make anyone uncomfortable, but see, the thing is that if this makes you uncomfortable, you are part of the problem that I am trying to fix. You expect me to pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the country that has been rejecting my family since the first day they got here. The flag, that piece of cloth that you hold as close to you as if it were a piece of your identity. And maybe it is. And maybe I can respect that, but if and only when you learn that this piece of cloth on my head is as holy to me as your flag is to you. And if America is what you say it is, then there is nothing, nobody more American than me, than these words that have traveled so far and so long to get here, through oceans of ink and roads of paper, and God knows through how many red lights. There is nothing more American than the desire of change, than standing up for what you believe in. Thank you.
According to society, my weight has less to do with health and more to do with happiness, but never my own. It's of the others surrounding me, making me see a rounder version of me. I was told that there's something wrong with you if you don't fit into a size 2, that perfection doesn't come in a large, and there is no happy medium because eyes should not be happy in a medium. I didn't know I was fat until my 4th grade teacher told me I'd lost weight. I didn't know I had anything to lose. I was blindly and blissfully unaware of the stares I got in crowded hallways. They used to joke I was taking up the entire walkway. I've been told that my weight is weighing me down, from my potentials, from my goals, that all my problems would be fixed if only I had 6 less inches around my waist, 3 less centimeters around my face, a little less here and a lot less there. As if true happiness is just beyond the glass scale, that I am not worth anything until the machine on my bathroom floor says so. Girls like me don't get to be loved. My contentness is unearned, undeserved. I've been conditioned to count calories instead of sheep. No wonder I can't sleep. I can't close my eyes without feeling the weight of my thighs, the pressure of being watched by 1,000 eyes. When did we get to the point where confidence is so fragile that it is built and broken with the same breath, within the confines of others' comments and compliments, where delight could not exist without diet, where food is more synonymous to failure than fuel, and where the only definition for beautiful is skinny?
In an alternate heaven for refugees, my people no longer kiss their ears to soil, hoping to hear the hums of an ancestry that lived. Here power cannot twist our tongues and tie them around our throats. But I can't rewrite history the way they did, 'cause America knows what it did, how they stole stories of our freedom, our bravery, and claimed it as their own. But here, America can't stain our white thobes ruby red, because here there are no borders. Do not call us dead, call us alive, because now we have the right to exist everywhere. Whether we call it home, or mosque, or church, or synagogue, or human love if it grows here. It knows its place in history. If you're born here, this land will love you back in this heaven. We whisper our own names in prayer. A law rewinds every bullet. All the boys win the soccer match. Trophies get washed up on seashores instead of the bodies of children who knew how to swim but couldn't. But there, missiles bang like an orchestra singing forgotten names there. Oppression became muscle memory there. I was denied an education, so I learned to count the dead and multiply body counts by the hour there. My younger brother cried prayers over my dead body every time he saw a piece of me disintegrate to powdered skulls. But brother, I wasn't there. I was here. Here, rather than throwing rocks at soldiers, we toss rocks into rivers to watch the ripplings of recovery feed every thirsty body here. My mother's Yemeni grace pours upon me. My father's laugh lives in the olive trees of Palestine. Sockets of hope grow from Syrian soil here. I chant the Somali anthem and hear the wind sing it back. Lullabies that were once missiles are now my sister's voice echoing in the mountains of Afghanistan. I earned this paradise by a death I did not deserve. Because someone, somewhere, prayed the pieces of our ancestry would rest in peace.
Grandmother always told me that my body is a temple. Respect it. But grandmother isn't from here. She don't know how my skin imitates tree bark, how my skin imitates life. Grandmother must not know how they cut down life every day to make white paper. Grandmother don't know that black bark makes good for white paper. She only knows that my body is a temple. Respect it. Grandmother don't know that I go to school every day to repaint black bark back onto white paper. She is foreign, but so is white paper. Grandmother must not know that the white boy in my class is foreign to black bark. She must not know how no matter how many times I spell my name out for him, it will never stick. Maybe black names dissolve into white paper like foreign bodies dissolve into white culture. White vultures. Don't you know that white birds have always found home in black trees? Maybe that's why black girls like me find home on white paper that dissolves us long enough to keep us silent for a lifetime. The white boy in my class can't pronounce my name, but he speaks fluent in deforestation. I've watched him wipe out a whole nation, blame it on the cause for education. But the white boy in my class still doesn't know my pronunciation. Grandmother is a God-fearing woman, but she's not from here. She says my body's a temple. Respect it. 1 Corinthians 6:19. Do you know that your bodies are temples of Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. Grandmother may not be from here, but she sure as hell knew what she was saying. She's right, I'm not my own. Maybe I belong to the white boy in my class who can't pronounce my name. Maybe I belong on his white paper. Maybe I should be disappearing like black trees do. But grandmother always told me that my body is a temple. Respect it. So I do. Because all of me is temple. All of me is holy. My name must be so holy it burns his tongue. Maybe that's it. Or maybe it's the respect part he can't handle. Maybe his respect dissolved for me in his white paper too. Does it really matter? Just know that the thought of me scares him. Scares him to the point that he sees me more blank than black, although people have always had a tendency of being afraid of the dark. My grandmother always told me that my body is a temple. Respect it. So I do. Because Lord knows the white boy in my class won't.
So this poem has a title. Shocker. This piece is titled An Ode to Kindergarten. I want to write a poem for the moment that my 5-year-old self walked into that classroom, the moment that my eyes lit up as bright as the multicolored alphabet letters strung across the room, or the cartoon characters on the reading rug, or for the moment that I found my purple butterfly name tag, Amina. I heard a voice over my shoulder, and I looked up to see a tall and firm-looking woman. She was not smiling. She had this look on her face as if she could see everything that my future held, everything that I'd grow up to be. She said, "I'm Miss Powers." And then it all made sense, because her collar looked like the perfect cover-up under which she'd tie her cape. And the reflection of myself that I could see in her glasses made me feel like she had probably just read my mind and seen all there was to see about me, all there ever would be, could be to see one day. And her powerful aura, radiating strength and bravery, made me wonder if maybe she was kindergarten teacher by day and superhero by night. But today, I stand here and realize that she was full-time superhero, because to be teacher is to be superhero. In her classroom, I learned how to count. I learned that I had to count to 10 3 times while washing my hands for them to actually be clean again. I learned that scissors are tricky to use, and cutting on the lines is not always the easiest, but failing to do so doesn't make you any less than the kid who got it right the first time. She taught me how to swing between syllables and sounds the way Spider-Man swings from building to building. I learned that, I tried. From building to building, and today I stand here and realize that she gave me a gift, because to teach me how to read and rhyme and play with syllables and sounds was to teach me how to tell my story. I learned that magic forms on paper, and I can be the magician, my crayons be my wand, and my alphabet sticker is my spell. With Miss Powers, I learned how to describe things like the bumpy, scaly, orange skin of our classroom fish. I learned that if someone is sitting alone during snack time, it is nice to extend a friendly hand, but with that, I also learned about peanut allergies. And I learned that if you try hard enough to fall asleep during nap time, you might even have a good dream. She made me recognize the word Powers, but only because it was her name and also the first thing I saw every morning as I walked in. Big, bold blue letters hanging above the glass window on the wooden door. It made me want to put my name up there too. Made me wonder how much growing up I still had left to do before I could be that important enough for my name to be the start of someone's day. Every day. It's been 12 years. And 12 years ago, I didn't know I'd... 12 years ago, I didn't know I'd be a hijabi. I didn't know I'd be a poet. 12 years ago, I didn't know I'd become a hijabi poet whose finger painting skills would progress into using words to paint portraits. And I don't know if Miss Powers knew or if Miss Holliday did. I don't know if Miss G saw this coming or if Miss Wright did. But it's been 12 years. And today, I carry with me 12 years worth of superpowers. Thank you.
I love you more than you can ever understand. You've taught me that tough people last longer than tough times, with a back bearing a burden of emotional baggage that still remains unseen. Obscene is what I once thought, the word used to describe the image that scraped across my mind, but every time I've learned that in time, everything is healed. Soon I hope to heal you too, make you understand just how special you are. As we watch the stars in the heavens moved, on the very first night that I met you, hands itching to be held together until they snap together like magnets, a strong connection, an invisible force that pulls me in and keeps me close. I may not be able to hold you in my hands forever, but I'll hold you in my heart. And one day, when we part, inches will become miles, and the distance that separates us will become exponential, but our potential for love is limitless. I'm proud to say that I felt love in this way, love deeper than oceans, love that makes me no longer feel like I'm lying when I tell you those 3 words. You've grown into the perfection and set a standard so high that only you can reach it. You weren't what I was looking for, but you were just what I needed. I only wish I could make the days with you last a little longer, that I could hold on to you a little tighter, because I hate that I have to let you go.
Marjan again, here on the stage. This is the piece that was inspired by the archives. To the men in Afghanistan who claim themselves teacher, my mother tells me how she never learned to spell her name as a child, how education sifted in her throat like sandpaper because all you teachers were male, how fear is the coldest thing in Afghanistan, yet it burns the hearts of mothers who send their daughters to school, knowing girls must sacrifice their body for an education, knowing if she raises her hand, she must soon cover her eyes, fold away an identity, become nothing but a lifeless spirit for you to feast on. The red hijab she wraps around her head is not tight enough. You want it around her mouth, for her to tie that tongue, to bite the screams as they come, for her to wipe the tears before the blood dries. When you make her bleed, do you fancy yourself chosen? Tell the mosque how you split the Red Sea. If you wear a mask long enough, it becomes an extra layer of skin. Eventually, you cannot pick it away the same way you've picked at women's souls by the white beers you call so pure. Where do you find your daughter's souvenirs? In the grave you buried her screams in, underneath the mosque you've claimed as your castle. Do you raise them up when you need proof of prophecy, when you forget her name, when you forget my mother's name? How do you remember the 99 of God?
So this piece was the one inspired by the archives. It was inspired by the archives about Calypso, and one thing I found when I was listening to them was that they were really funny, but it was also really sad if you really looked at the lyrics. So this poem is titled "This is Calypso." Have you ever heard a Trinidadian sing a sad song? Me neither. But I have heard a sad Trinidadian sing a song. My father is a pan player. Maybe if we begged, I'd play some for you too. You'd never hear us play a depressing tune, that's for sure. It's not in our DNA to upset a paying customer. Smiles edged on our faces so present you think we painted them that way. By the end of the night, we play them away. Those Trinidadians aren't shy. They wear their hurt in their voice, especially when they sing, use the notes as bandages. It's just a matter of listening. I watched my father turn his unhappy life into a melody, become a satire of a song, call it Calypso. No, those Trinidadians aren't shy, but wounded. You can hear it in the music, in the rhymes. All you have to do is listen, stay in this tunnel a little longer. Calypso is being so exposed that people forget to look. They laugh, never truly knowing why, only that you're supposed to laugh at someone else's pain. Just ask Lord Invader. He'll sing you a melody so sweet you'll forget to listen to the tears as they drop like a backbeat. Yes, my mother dead and my father disowned me. What am I to do? But had people laughing by the next verse. This is Calypso. Listen and weep. Most don't know they're allowed to. Neither do the artists. My father sure didn't know. And sometimes I worry that I inherited that same trait. Used my stanzas as masking tape, showed you my heart and then covered it in the same instance. It's not in our DNA to be shy. I'm not a Calypsonian, but I could have fooled you. Inserted puns instead of punches in my poems, included comedy instead of crying, covering every scar that was too painful to talk about. So I don't fault you for seeing us more comedian than grieving artist. It's not in your DNA. Not like we didn't ridicule the situation until it looked more notes than tears, more sound, less fear, more laughs, less cry. Just open your eyes. This is Calypso, the entertainment we give you. So when in return you laugh, we smile. Edge on our faces so present you think we painted them. Because what else are we supposed to do? We wear our hurt in our voice, especially when we sing or play or write. It's all the same. It's just a matter of listening. It's honestly all laid out for you, so who do we blame? The artist for being so deceitful, or you for not listening? Thank you. Give it up for all those poets again. Aren't they fantastic? My name is Alexa Patrick. I have the honor of being the head coach for the DC Youth Slam team, and it has been absolutely wonderful. I spend hours on hours with them every week, and even just seeing these performances, I'm still in awe. It's funny, like I never get tired of it. I want more, please. Okay, so we are actually headed into our third week of practices. In these practices, the poets have had a chance to write these really wonderful, beautiful, nuanced pieces, and in addition, also have some really interesting and engaged conversations, engaging dialogue about these really challenging topics, as you have all seen. And I think that is really what this event is about in many ways, the dialogue. It's been an absolutely, I don't know, it's just been so inspiring watching you all engage with these archives, see how it applies to your own lives, and then take it and create something out of it, and then read it in front of all of you. So then that kind of puts the action on you to not let these poems end here, right? This is just the beginning of something. This is the beginning of a conversation, of a dialogue. So if you see something, or if you saw something today that moved you, that challenged you, please go out and talk to these poets, or talk to someone else, share what you have heard today, because it's important. And I know the team and I would be honored to just be at the start of a conversation, or a continuation of this conversation. So thank you all. Thank you all. Anyway, I was wondering, and you can let me know, if it's okay if I do a poem. Okay. I'm so happy you said yes. It would have been so awkward if you were like, no, get off the stage. Okay. Let's see. A letter to the white music major who told me I didn't understand jazz. I bet you think Elvis Presley was a great songwriter. I bet the musical Hamilton introduced you to hip hop. I bet you spent too much money on an education you could have gotten from just listening. To hands busy, scraping together money, food, something to live on, hands that still find time to keep rhythm, just listen. To feet that bleed into tips of shoes after long hours of working or escaping and still finding joy in flirting with a dance floor. Or imagine a mouth kept quiet all day, opening to sing. Why you wanna fly, blackbird? You ain't never gonna fly. And this all in a living room. Furniture pushed aside so grown folks to do what grown folks do. This a kitchen where nighttime chores turn moonlit symphonies. This is jazz. What they teach you at your university. They hand you notes on a page, say here, Billie Holiday, without showing you the strange fruit that made her voice a bleeding trumpet. They teach you Coltrane wrote considering strange scales without weighing the cacophony of burning churches. Jazz at its root, underground tracks leading black bodies away from fire. Reduce that to a classroom and I do not understand. University is a temporary shelter for those who can afford it. My people barely permitted in its facilities until 50 years ago. Our names fill your curriculums. Even when we're not on your rosters, we created our own. Our jazz is a home, a door wide open, crumbling institutions with the audacity of making music out of its dust. Just listen to us, to me, who you told didn't understand. When I too have seen everything burning, I too have felt lost in a place I lived my entire life. When every day I was ugly because nobody heard me beautiful, it was jazz that lifted my chin to its mirror. Show me how black folks spin sorrow into spaces for living, into rooms without ash. I am that music, descendant of people who build what they are told they cannot have, a home, a stage, a voice. And you tell me that I don't understand, but no, this is mine. Thank you.
Wow, I don't know about you, but I'm speechless. Awe-inspiring indeed. So everyone give it up for Alexa Patrick one more time. And Marjan, Amina, Takier, and Jordan. So I've been so lucky to work with them for a couple of weekends here at the American Folklife Center at the library. You guys are so inspiring, what you've done with what you listened to and read and the conversations we had. They were just going to take down the world, you and I, right? So I'm sure a lot of you have questions. I definitely want to know about your processes, how you write your poems and come up with these beautiful ideas. And the funny thing is, not every one of your poems obviously was inspired by the archives, but they all have something to do with culture and identity and expression and misidentity. All right, so I promised you guys that I would write a poem. And look, woo! Okay. And I took the challenge literally. I am definitely rhyming. So it's a little old school. I will say when I was in high school, Dorothy Parker was one idol of mine. I thought she was super smart and super cool. I still do. So this is a bit of a nod to her with the rhyming. I'm taking a cue from you guys. When I do research in the archives, one type of collection I love to look at are letters, correspondence. So this is all about that. It's called Behind the Scenes, so it has a title, or Ode to the AFC Correspondence Files. The stories of some older collections preserved at the AFC are pieced together in correspondence, tracing how they came to be. Stretched out over years and months, not even weeks or days, people, well, often men, would have one conversation, out of sync with delays. Oceans would move these letters, and later old-school propeller planes, from cities and towns across continents to D.C. and back again. Typed with typos, cross-outs, smudges, and cursive platitudes, these semi-translucent onion skid letters weigh heavy with official moods. Sometimes these men were angry, expressing frustration over VIT, that is, very important things, earmarked for posterity. Where is the recording equipment you're lending to capture this rare, sacred song? 4 months later. It's on the next boat out of New York. It really shouldn't be that long. That was supposed to be funny. Other times there is great warmth for the making of far-flung friends, a vast web of researchers and documentarians whose past work to you we today recommend. Though my favorite letters to leaf through and draw inspiration from are those that reveal the women whose stories history left undone. The unnamed and named wives of the letter writers and those who were on their own, they too were the researchers, field workers, and collection creators and assistants. But it's in the details behind the scenes, the stamped and postmarked remnants where their contributions no longer are unknown. Thank you. Thank you, guys. So I shall welcome all of you, Alexa, the coach, and the team up here. We'll have a couple of general questions, ask them, and then it'll be open for everyone else to learn more. Okay, so maybe Alexa, will start with you, and everyone could hear us. Oh, me, right? Okay, good. It's hard to tell. I will be asking all of you this because I'm so curious, but what brought you to poetry? Why is it, I assume, important to you?
What brought me to poetry? Well, I was always a little bit of a rule breaker when it came to language and identity. I was always very noisy, and I liked having the ability and the freedom to write what I wanted in poetry and be who I wanted in poetry. I felt like poetry was it was a way for me to express myself in the way that I wanted to express myself. It wasn't. It was a way for me to be free. And so that's kind of what brought me to it. So I always, I loved it so much as a little girl. And then when I got into college, then I started doing the slam team stuff. And now I coach. So it's been an interesting journey, but I feel like it's a way for me to be free in a way. Yes.
Marjan?
Yes, hello. I began writing because I wanted to document my identity. And I feel like that was really important because so often a lot of the identities that I do hold are shoved to the back of the closet or not brought onto the stage, or people are just not willing to hear it. And so if people aren't willing to hear it, might as well write about it, right? And through writing, and in the years that I have been writing and I have been performing, I've noticed that I'm beginning to latch on to those identities and more claim them, more be proud of them, more represent them. And so that's something that continues to keep me writing, and it's something that's very now natural to my process of understanding myself.
So when I was younger, my mother said I was a very talkative child, but I think that stayed in elementary school because I felt like after elementary school, it was tough for me to talk, and poetry was sort of that outlet because you got to express yourself, but it was your choice if anyone actually saw it or not. And eventually, of course, people got to see it. That didn't really happen until high school when I started doing open mics and slams and found my school's poetry team. But poetry really did a lot for me, so.
Wow, so I feel like everyone had really deep and heartfelt answers, but because I started writing when I was really, really little. And I was in second grade when I took my first attempt at writing a poem. And it was because my father is a poet and writes, and so is my older sister. And both of them, I have always, always, always looked up to them in every aspect of every way. And I think when I was in second grade, when I picked up a pencil, tried to write a poem, it wasn't even about writing the poem for me at first. It was just trying to be more like them. And as I wrote it, and then they supported me in it, and I continued writing. It wasn't good back then, but I stumbled and have gotten here. And in high school is when things took a turn for being serious, and I started to perform in freshman year of high school. And yeah.
Do you remember what it was about? The first poem?
My first poem ever, or my first performed poem, was about being bullied in 7th grade. And a miserable year that has left its impacts on me.
Wow.
I think anyone who really knows me knows that I talk a lot. I always have a lot to say. I think with poetry, I've been able to find a space where I can kind of corral the thoughts that either no one wants to hear or I don't know how to perfectly articulate. I think that most of my thoughts rush to me in little phrases, and I can kind of piece them together and kind of get a good perspective what I'm trying to say, or what's sticking in the back of my mind through the things that I'm writing. It was something that I kind of did. Trying out for this team specifically was something that I kind of did on a whim. I was thinking about how I was going to be a senior next year and thinking about what are the things I want to do in college, or what are the things that I will regret as an adult. Because something my dad always said is he had a dream of being a pilot when he was younger, and he was like, I'm just going to do it when I have time to do it. And he never had time to do it. So I wrote down a list of things that I thought I would regret, and I had a unit at school where we did poetry, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I found such a safe space with it. And so I was like, I'll do this poetry thing, I'll see what happens, and I'm so glad I did, because I found such a good community and such a space safe, not just within the people who do slam, but just with this group of women specifically. I found such a home with them, and that means a lot to me, but yeah.
And I should point out, if this wasn't already, you all are so accomplished in poetry, and you all auditioned to be on this team. And I also want to point out that Marjan, last year, you're the 2018 champion at the National Book Festival here at the Library of Congress. So yeah, congratulations on that. That brings this idea of, poetry slams are generally competitions. Yes. And so how is that element? Because today was just really a showcase. Everyone was friendly, no fights until later. But what is the element of competition in poetry? How does that work? And is it for show? Or?
Honestly, at the slams that I've been at and the people that I've competed with, aside from like the international slam, because people prepare months for it, like people really want to win that one. But honestly, like the slams itself, it's been a really supportive and open environment amongst the poets too, even if they are competing. And so that's just so incredible because people are coming forth to slam for the sake of the platform rather than a title. So that's what I've noticed, at least. If you guys have any other comments.
Same here. The thing about slams that scare me is like when they show the scores. Yeah. If I didn't get to see the scores, I'd be fine because, like she said, like it's just a supportive group of people. Yeah. So either way, I know I'm gonna be fine. I'm sharing a part of me with them, and I know they'll accept me. So
Yeah. I think poetry in general is one of those things that you have to come into a really open mindset with it, and that's a great thing about slams is everyone there is so open and willing to listen to everything that you have to say. Yeah. So the community is really nice because no matter what, at the end of the day, you're there for each other. And poetry in general is or just all types of writing is very subjective, I feel. So I think that when you do poems, regardless of how you score, you know how that meant to you and like, you know how it feels. And you can have poems that score differently at different slams. It depends on who's the person judging. It's not a personal thing, but I think everyone knows it. It's like a well understood thing in the community where everyone knows that like this is like they know how much work they put into something. They know how much it means to them. And so no one takes it personally when something doesn't go right for them.
I've been at slams where I've seen the same person get like a 7 on a poem, and then I've been at another slam where they've done the exact same poem, exact same performance, like almost identical, and they've like scored 10s. Yeah. So the judging is never really dependable, and I guess poets, we always have to like remind ourselves that so we're not judging ourselves too harshly, you know?
Right, so as far as slams go, usually the judges are chosen at random from the audience, so it's really like a representation of the community, so that's why you'll often see a disparity in scores. I found when I've either been competing in a slam or been coaching at a slam, the element of competition serves more as motivation, as encouragement, as like, okay, wow, okay, that poem was fire and got a 10. Okay, well, when I go back next year, let me try and up my ante a little bit in my approach to the page. Yeah.
So I'm super curious about how you guys write and craft and your poems. Could you talk a little bit more about the process? And maybe even just recently with using the archives here at the American Folklife Center?
So, oh, sorry. I assumed that Jordan she gave me the look, you know what I mean? With the archives, it was more of like an exploration, and I came in with a completely blank mind. What could I possibly write about? And so we spent a couple hours, and we were looking through things, and there wasn't necessarily one specific document that I took home and was like, the entire piece will be
you can't take it home.
Yeah, exactly.
Stole nothing.
But it was more of a collective, and I think that's so fast. Like, it's incredible that we have that kind of resource where we are able to bind together multiple sources to produce one product. While writing it, it was like one click of inspiration while I was sitting down. I was like, this is what I will write about. And then from there, it kind of just took off, and the writing was workshopped amongst us during the past week, and it was awesome, yes.
Yeah, I think the real process, like if we're speaking like of like actual processes, is the workshopping process, or at least for me anyways, the first draft always comes in waves. Like I'll either a line will come to me and I'll write it down, or I'll sit down and I'll be going through old stuff that I already have, and then just 3 stanzas will fly out of my pen, you know? And then the real process is when you're workshopping and editing and seeing. That's when you're actually putting your piece together.
You don't know how happy it makes me as a coach to hear that the real process is in the workshopping.
I didn't say I enjoy workshopping.
Wow.
Well, what happens during the workshop?
So usually they print out multiple copies of the poem. We disperse them amongst each other. Someone else reads the poem so that the poet can hear what the poem sounds like in someone else's voice and how it comes across that way. then the poet reads the poem, and then the poet stays silent and listens as we all discuss the poem and look at really what is this poem trying to do. Is every single line working with that goal, with that intention, or is it working against it? What could they do? How could they change it? And the poet just listens and writes notes down. The process usually takes about 1 to 2 hours amongst all of us, and so a lot of times people do not find it fun at all, but group of nerds here.
Shall we open it up? Does anyone out there have any questions for our young, brilliant artists?
I'm curious. Wait, Betsy? Going back and looking at other poems, older poems that you've written, do any of you go back and revise? Like, things that maybe you wrote 2 or 3 years ago?
I think art is, an artist will never be satisfied with the final piece. And that's so awesome because we're so open to just continuously building and using our skills that we kind of get from the outside world and bringing back to the paper. For myself personally, there's been moments where I was like, oh my God, this poem is so fire. Like, it could never be better than this. And then 2 weeks later, I read back and I'm like, I could have totally done this right here.
Yeah.
So, that's what I did.
I think it's very dependent on your mood at the time, because I feel there have been so many poems where I'm just like, oh no, like this is excellent, like I'm so smart, and I'll look at it, I'm like, this is not English, this can't be right. But I think that it is hard to be very satisfied with your work. I even like looking back at things and being like, oh, I could have done this, I should have said this instead, and I feel like that's just the nature of. I think it's also like the nature of being a teen too. It's just like you constantly want to fix everything about yourself. So I feel like there's a lot of editing that's always done. I feel like there's never a point where I'm like, this is done, this is exactly how I want it to be.
I feel like all the stuff, or most of the stuff that I look back on is always like small unfinished blurbs.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Hi, ladies. You all did an amazing job today, so I just wanted to first say that. Has there ever been a topic that was difficult to write a poem about, or has there ever been a poem that was difficult for you to finish?
I definitely think so. I think, so I have like a hard time following through, so that might just be like a me thing. But I think there are definitely some topics that I think are especially hard to write about, but I think that because slam poetry, like the nature of it is it's very theatrical. There are some poems that I've written that I find really hard to share. There are a lot of poems where I'm like, this is good, but like I'm gonna keep this to myself because some of it is so intimate and it shares such a piece of yourself that you don't know if you're ready. Like there has to be a certain point where you're ready to share that with other people. Because some of it, I think in poetry, it hides a lot of what you're thinking, what you should have said, or what you think that you should say, but you're too scared to do it. And so I think that, I think slam poetry is really a lot about bravery. And so I think that certain moments it's kind of hard to kind of gather the courage and the confidence to follow through with something like that.
Yeah. I definitely feel like like Jordan said, like deciding to share an intimate piece is like extremely difficult at times, but for me, I've also found myself struggling to even put those intimate thoughts onto paper at first. Like it starts right then and there. If I'm having difficulty, it's like, do I even want to put this on paper? Like my mind immediately goes to, well, even if you don't share it, what if someone finds it, Yeah.
I think a lot of my poems, well, not a lot of my poems, but some of my poems aren't like the happiest poems. And, once you get out of that space, you don't want to get back into it because, it's not a happy moment. But, like, if you're going to perform it on stage, something I hear a lot is remember why you wrote it. And that can be, like, that can give you, like, that can cause a lot of emotions to come out all at once.
Yeah.
So.
I would also say, I think in general that it's really important, especially for young poets, to figure out a balance between kind of challenging their fears and also protecting themselves. A lot of times with spoken word, they'll get to a slam or they'll get to an open mic and they'll feel pressure to do a poem that they might not be ready to do, or they'll do a poem that is really, it's difficult to do. Maybe it's something about trauma, what have you. and it's something that maybe they haven't worked out themselves. And so I always say, please do not write or perform poems that you're not ready to write or perform, because you want the process of performing poetry and writing poetry to be something that is cathartic, that is welcoming. And so sometimes when you kind of walk that line a little bit, it can have the opposite effect.
Great job, everybody. And Amina, congratulations on graduating.
Thank you.
Can you talk about how you see poetry in your futures?
Funny, because I've been thinking about that a lot personally, especially since I graduated. And no, not since, since, you know what I mean?
Did you graduate?
No, I mean because of the fact that I have now graduated and had been looking forward to that point. The question was on my mind. Thanks. No, but this whole year I feel like it's been at the very front of my mind, actually, because a huge part of my spoken word career started freshman year of high school because of our school's poetry club, and Brian Hannon, he's with Split This Rock. He's my favorite. He's our club sponsor and also my AP Lit teacher. He was this year. But I found myself questioning how I was gonna continue with it, because I don't really, this might come as a shock, but English isn't my favorite subject. So I don't really want to pursue anything in that. I'm trying to pursue the medical field. And that always comes as a shock to everyone, especially after a performance or anything. But I'm still struggling to figure out how I'm going to find a balance between, because I know I want to hold on to poetry and I don't want to stop. And I'm just really hoping that I don't lose myself in either professional studies or not having enough time to, even if I do perform, I want to continue performing throughout. But I don't know if I have a solid plan yet.
I asked the exact same question to Chelsea. I was like, Chelsea, I don't know what I want to do, medicine or poetry. And she was like, well, with medicine a lot of time or anything amongst that field, it's difficult to do it a long time when you're on the road, a little bit far down the road. But with poetry, you can always hold on to it and come back to it and continue to pursue it. So that's my plan, all thanks to Chesley, who gave me the best advice in the world.
I would also say that Split This Rock does a really great job of streamlining our youth poets into their own professional development. I know my assistant coach, Brandon, hey Brandon, shout out to you, thank you so much, is a alum of the DCU Slam team, has performed through Split This Rock, is now a teaching artist and the assistant coach, and there are opportunities, especially in DC. We have such a vibrant poetry community, so I hope you all know that you have we have the resources. You have the resources. We are here. We are here.
Actually, could you tell us a little bit about where one could find open mics and slams, if anyone else is interested in?
Yeah, for sure. So there's always Busboys and Poets. Busboys and Poets has weekly open mics in their different locations, and the days vary based on the location. So you can always go to their website and check them out. There's also Spit Dat. Dat with a D, and those are on Thursday nights. Remind me where that is. That's right by Howard University. Do you remember the? It's not there anymore. Oh no, just kidding. Okay. Ooh, okay, yes. So you're gonna have to do some researching in the archives of the internet yourself there. And then there's Real Talk DC, Floetic Fridays. They're really, there are lots of opportunities every day to either witness an open mic or perform at an open mic. And then Split This Rock also has Sunday Kind of Love at Busboys and Poets. We also host workshops, and so you can check out our website at splitthisrock.org. It's just a matter of looking, because we are there.
There's also youth open mics that are monthly. putting that in for you because I remembered. And 2 really big competitions that Split This Rock has. It's like the best competitions ever. It's Hyperbole, which is an individual slam, and there's a scholarship awarded, which is also very exciting. And so the finals is always open for spectators and always blows my mind. And that's like once a year, usually March, February. And then we have LTAB, which is a team Split This Rock has LTAB, which is a team competition for high schoolers. And so there, high schoolers compete as a team, and they take home the prize as a team.
So yeah, so that's a great opportunity for youth poets, and then for adults, we also have the our biannual festival. So every 2 years, we have this wonderful festival. I think it happens for 4 days. I know we just released the we just released the dates of it. So you can check that out. It's days of workshops, of readings. It's moving, and that's actually how I came into my relationship with Split This Rock, is through that festival. So check it out. It's happening next year.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you all again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anya Crichton. I'm the programs manager at the Poetry and Literature Center. It's very formal to be behind this thing after this fun is had over here. I just want to say thank you for coming out, first and foremost. And here at the Poetry and Literature Center, we know poetry has power, as you've seen today, and it has real resonance in people's everyday lives. So we want to thank our poets again today. One more massive round of applause. And also, for Michelle at AFC, at American Folklife Center, who generously wrote a poem. It's a brave thing to do. Thank you again to Michelle. Before I close it out, I do want to say it's enormously gratifying to see these young poets here in the Library of Congress. For those of you who are aware, the library is in a new effort to make our resources more visible, more reachable, and have people have ownership over them. So, it's my goal and my deep hope that the youth being here today using the archives will inspire you to come to the Library of Congress with your questions, with your confusion, with your excitement, so that we can host and share our treasure. We really have a lot of it, millions and millions of it, but what's more important is that you feel welcome here and that this is a site for you. So if we could please say our beautiful poets' names out loud so they can feel that they are in this space, even as we waft out. I'm gonna say their names. And the last thing I'm gonna have you do is fill out paperwork, because the good old government likes these pieces of forms. They really do help us keep this program like this alive. So I'm going to repeat our gorgeous poets' names. Amina, high school graduate. I do want to say one thing. There's a long history of poets also being doctors, so don't feel that you have to limit yourself, okay? It's true. Come back to the Poetry and Literature Center. We'll tell you more. Okay, Takier, round of applause. Marjan. And Jordan. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Have a great afternoon.